Hey, Premier Investors, it's Adam Schroeder here with Grant McMillan, your co-founders of Premier Turnkey. And we are pleased to be joined today by Andrew. He is the team leader of our new builds going on in the Pampa, Texas area. So Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so you've told us about this area. It's really exciting. But before we get into that, we're gonna focus on you just a little bit,
All
and that
right.
is, you have you've been in the property management side, you're on the building side, you've kind of done a whole lot in real estate. um, where where did you find that real estate was kind of going to be your thing? When did that happen?
Oh gosh, do we really want to go down that? Yeah. So both of you guys have heard my story in detail. So I'll try to not go into every piece of it, but really, I've always been attracted to real estate. I started in the construction and services space, but quite frankly, I couldn't figure out how to get into real estate. Real estate was always something to me that was this beyond the gates, beyond the other side of the mountain that I couldn't get to. I was contractor through and through, and so it really wasn't until absolute. Gosh, I hate to brand it this way, but almost catastrophe in other business ventures that caused me to look at real estate as something that, hey, this could be something that could actually stabilize my life. This could be something that could actually put me on a path to long-term wealth building. And so I'm kind of a stubborn dude. We talked about this before with Microsoft Teams versus Zoom versus Google Meet, whatever it was. So I was hardcore into contracting, and that's what it was going to be. And it was only until a couple chance encounters that I met other men that I looked up to that were building their own projects, so to speak, and investing into their own deals. And to answer your question shortly, it was in the middle of a lot of pain in a business that I was involved in, and then seeing kind of the light of going, well, wait a minute, I can apply a lot of what I've learned over the past decade and be more involved in the real estate side of things. So it took a lot of pain, and then the shininess of real estate to see, hey, this is something in a path for me.
Yeah. Now you've gotten into, because you're doing the property management on these, and believe me, we're going to get into that
Yeah.
because that's a massive piece of it. But how did you end up? I mean, you talk about the hospitality side, but hospitality and property management, they're the same thing, but it's a lot rougher, I feel like, in the property management side of things than like in a hotel,
Yeah.
kind of, and like a waiter and that kind of stuff. So what led you to that avenue?
To property management specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just
So
being, and even staying and being in that area. 'Cause most people, they
why
go to
you
property
stay in it?
management, they're there for a little while, and they're like, "What am I doing? I'm gonna I'm gonna go find something else."
Yeah.
They get out as quickly as they got in. Yeah.
That's right. So, I guess the reason I stay in it is out of anything and everything I do, it's the place where we get to reach most people. So, from an operating standpoint, I understand that we're here to talk about investing and ROI and maximizing dollar gain. But for us, it truly is our marketplace ministry. Like being in it, it's messy, it's difficult. But from the property management side, what keeps me in it is the joy that we get from working with tenants and working with people who are in transition. So that's what caused me to stay there. What got me into it was, in fact, that the service background and the construction background. So I had been an operator in the maintenance and service space. Specifically, we were a company that was doing work for the AT&Ts, the CBREs, the JLLs, the big property managers in the commercial space. And at one point, got a phone call from somebody who needed help with their single family portfolio. Had 1,000 unit portfolio of doors that had backlog work orders and quite a mess of things. And I had gotten to know this group pretty well, and they said, "Hey, can you come in and help us with work orders and service work? You seem to have a ability to organize around this." And so we jumped in and helped with the maintenance side of things, maintenance and make readies, which, as you guys know, is probably not probably, certainly right next to vacancies. One of the number one ROI eroders, if you will, is maintenance. And of course, that also feeds back into your vacancies, whether you have happy tenants or not that are renewing. So got in there was able to really help and support this group in that. And as the deeper I got into it, I thought, hey man, this is an opportunity to do something good here, because in the property management space, obviously you need leasing, you need the ability to sell, you need to be able to get units leased up. But it seemed to me that the weak spot that most property managers had was, one, they had poor maintenance, and two, they had poor accounting. These are two things that I spent a decade building in the service business. We had to have strong maintenance. That was obviously the core of what we did. And our accounting had to be tight to keep up with every single part and every single labor hour that we had out there. So with those two components, it was almost, it's like I'd been beat up enough in that space that the additional punches to the throat in property management weren't that much more. And so, so we moved right into it. And yeah, I'll say, back to your point again, property management for most people is an afterthought. For us, it became like the foundation with which we built on. And when we figured that piece out, it really made the rest of it easier for us.
Yeah, I'll say property management is probably an afterthought when people start investing, but after they get a few properties under their belt, it becomes much higher priority. Especially especially on that first, when that first turn comes, you start to realize, oh.
Yes, not only like how is that being handled, but how was the property handled for the 12 months when the person lived in it, and why is it such a wreck to have to turn this thing?
Yeah. So now you're bringing us some new builds in an area that I'm going to guess, if there are 10,000 people listening, 9,999 of them have never heard of it. And it's Pampa, Texas, and the general area. We want to talk about the general area around there too, because it's not going to be the only place you're building up there, right? There's a reason you're building in this region. Tell us a little bit about what you found that led you to this area that most people only drive through if they're going the Panhandle to Amarillo or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So what we saw was pent up demand and an inability for builders who build at scale to operate there. That's really what it amounts to. So you alluded to a minute ago, we're hyper focused on rural West Texas, and looking for places where we can find asymmetric risk reward for investors, I guess would be the best way to say that. We see higher risk oftentimes comes with higher reward, but as an investor, we want to find like an asymmetric risk to reward. So where can I get the maximum reward with the lowest amount of risk? Well, we're seeing that in these smaller communities, specifically Pampa is one of them, Sweetwater, Texas is another one of them. We're seeing where there is a stable renter base. There's new industry coming to these communities for a number of reasons, but there's no new construction inventory. Average housing stock in a lot of these communities is around 1952. So a lot of older homes, yet large infrastructure investment from everything from AI data centers to in Pampa, Texas specifically, a internet service provider that got I think it was a $330 million grant from the U.S. federal government to put high-speed internet into rural communities across the country. And so we're seeing these little these places that are smaller communities, and of course with what we went through with COVID and remote working, we're seeing people have the ability to be a bit more flexible in their jobs. So there's still a housing demand there. And so Pampa, Texas, specifically the one we're talking about today, is 45 minutes northeast of Amarillo, Texas, which for anybody who is way out of state, this is the true North Texas. People call Dallas North Texas, but there's this thing called the Panhandle that's way more North Texas than Dallas. And so up in that region there, Pampa is it kind of sits at the epicenter of quite a few other neighboring small communities that people travel into Pampa for commerce and for other things. And so it's a hub of sorts that's right up there in the Panhandle. And again, very low supply and high demand.
Yeah. And so when you look at these, one of the things in a community like this, obviously, is supply, right? You mentioned kind of the older supply, but it's not a place where we can come in and just build 200 homes a year, right? Like that's not going to be something that this area can touch. So it's important to kind of not slow roll it, because it's just kind of playing the pace that it can be assimilated. One of the things we were talking about whenever we were getting started and looking at all this with you is, what rents can you actually achieve? Because like you said, the housing stock isn't available, right? Like nobody has rented a new construction home in Pampa in 50
Ever.
years, because
Might as well be
there
ever,
hasn't been
right?
one to rent in 50 years. So tell us a little bit about kind of your experience with the lease out, and kind of how many y'all are looking to build in the next, say, 12 months in the area.
Yes. So we've been very conscious of that, not only for investors who purchase these homes, but also just for the community. Because truthfully, what brought us to Pampa and to some of these other West Texas markets, it was the need for the person in Pampa, for the person in Sweetwater. It was what they were being forced to live in. And when I say forced, obviously use that term loosely. It was, they had no options, right? So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was our conversation with municipalities, this being local city managers, mayors, who were about begging us, as we started tracking the trends and seeing where this demand was, they just really, really needed housing. And so, it was always interesting to me. It's like, okay, this need is there. Why is nobody doing it? And so, to touch on to your point, like we have to be strategic and systematic about how we build in these places. And we also don't want to leave the investor or the community with a bunch of homes that is just too much, right? So we've been very careful with that. Whereas in a larger market, we may come in and do 4 to 6 starts a month. For the Pampa market, we're slated at 2 starts a month for the next 12 months. And so we've got the specific development in Pampa is 84 home sites. We've broken that out into 3 phases. And again, we're working on 2 starts a month just to keep consistent flow. We don't want to oversaturate the market. We want to make sure that lease up velocity stays fast. So if we get too much out there too fast, that becomes a problem for people. And like we said, that's one of the number one ROI eroders is vacancy, right?
Yeah. So tell us about kind of how you guessed really at the rents and how quick it went, and if you think there's upside, if you think this is kind of the peak, kind of what was your feel from the lease out time frame?
Yeah. So I love how you say that guess, because that's exactly what it was originally. How do you do enough market research to find, if there's not been new housing construction? We can only compare it to markets like Lubbock and Amarillo and others. And in fact, what we're achieving in these smaller communities is even greater, higher rents than we get in Lubbock and other places as well. And that's just, again, that's due to the pent up demand. So here's what we did. We went out and we talked to the hiring groups that are bringing in a lot of jobs, who have been stable there for the longest time. And we just started asking. So we knew Pampa specifically, there are a few key large projects when we broke ground on this project 2 years ago that were already occurring. And this was long before the AI buzz and all that kind of stuff happening. There were large investments in these communities based off of some of the infrastructure that existed from back in the 70s and 80s, some of the oil refineries and things that were out there. So are things that were already happening. And I'm going to get to my point here. When we started building, we just started asking, hey, how many people are coming to town? We tracked, I guess I could say it was a guess, but we were tracking how many people are these groups hiring. These are places like Cabot, which is a name people know. This was ProMan USA. This was Resound Networks. This is now Intersect, who's doing the big AI data center that we're excited about. But we started asking them, hey, how many people are you hiring? What are the phases that you're going to be hiring in? And who are the people responsible for bringing these people to town? And so we began to build relationships with them. And then as we built, we just started asking again, what are you guys seeing? You think this much would work? That much would work? And of course, that's a very unreliable way to actually go with it. But that's where we started. And so we got no eyebrows raised. Let's say $2,100 a month for a 3-bedroom, which you can purchase for $205, roughly $1,000. We got no oh my gosh, no shock with that. And for me, I thought, okay, well, that's good that they're giving that feedback, but let's get these on the ground and put them out there. And so when we did that, and we listed our first couple on Zillow and the various rental networks, I believe it was 22 days, and we got exactly what we were asking for. And now finding ourselves in a position of, oh gosh, how many more do we need to have ready by June? So that's been fun.
Hey, Andrew, tell us a little bit about so if you're painting a picture on what our investors could expect as far as the build, the quality, what you're putting in there, and the build time, from ground up, what are they looking at if you were to paint a picture?
Yeah. So these, I guess I would describe these as traditional single family homes. Right now, everything that we are building in the Northridge development specifically are brick homes. So when I say traditional, that's what I'm thinking about. You hear me say cottage sometimes, that would be the siding product, which both are great and we can do both. But these are traditional brick homes. Everything inside of them's got the luxury vinyl plank, flooring, granite countertops. We have built these very efficient when it comes to the actual framing methodology that we're using. We've actually been able to borrow and I guess receive for free a lot of guidance from national builders who we work with across multiple markets from the rental side to really pack in hundreds of millions of dollars of value engineering into the product that we're building up in Pampa. So everything from a standpoint of the construction of the home is it's nicer than most people in Pampa have seen. It's very similar. Think of what I could relate it to. If we think of we think of a Lennar, a DR Horton, or something similar with a few notches above as far as the finish out, like finishes. And that's not me knocking either of those builders. It's just it's odd for some of these small communities. They're not used to the efficiencies, some of the ways where we're able to cut costs, so to speak, and that's acceptable in a market like Lubbock or Dallas or Houston. These smaller communities, they expect something nicer, and it's interesting, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense, but the market expects that, and so that's what we're building. We're building 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom units. The primary ones that we're seeing that are best returns for investors. We have a 3-bedroom that's a 1,200 square foot and a 4-bedroom that is 1,550 square feet. These are all landscaped, fenced backyards, which when I put my property manager hat on becomes very important that you have a turnkey, no pun intended, but a true turnkey unit to rent. We've seen investors buy stuff that is quote unquote turnkey, but doesn't have all the amenities and features that a renter wants day one. So that's the basic product, and the two that we're seeing that are the most valuable. All of these come with your typical warranties on them. So 1-year builder, 2-year extended, and 10-year structural, and then build time is about 5 months.
Yep.
So
And what appliances, like, did the refrigerator come with that? I didn't catch that in your answer.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, so everything that we're offering, and that's what we found. That's when it comes to the property management side, it's quite amazing what will steer a renter's mind. We've seen units that don't have blinds that will sit for a month and a half longer than one right next door with blinds. And so all of these, as far as the Pampa one goes, and I just used a horrible example because the Pampa ones don't have window treatments in them native, but they do have the main things that I would state are the landscaping, the fencing, and all appliances. So all LG appliances, including your microwave, your refrigerator, your stove, your dishwasher, they're ready to go. The only thing they don't have is your washer dryer.
Which we always tell investors don't own those anyway.
That's right, and it just a maintenance nightmare.
Yep. I've tell people before I've paid to have washers and dryers taken away that tenants have left, so that I didn't have to handle them whenever the next tenant moved in.
We don't want to deal with that.
Don't own those people. So if someone were to be sitting in front of you and say, Andrew, what does Pampa look like in 10 years from today? Because really, as you look out, obviously there's the the growth from your rent growth, from your your loan pay down, but there's also, you're looking for appreciation. You're looking for area growth, right? You don't just want to be investing in a small city that's never going to get bigger, or it's going to be like a lot of small towns that die. I mean,
Right.
Pampa, we're seeing, isn't one of those. So what is your view of Pampa in 10 years?
So I look at the view of Pampa as very similar to a view of a lot of these smaller West Texas communities. I mean, we know what the net migration into Texas has been over the course of the last 5 years, and that's only continuing. What we're seeing, like I would have believed in the Pampa market and all these markets long term, regardless, because they're stable. They have been there. They have unique communities. These aren't towns that are just on the side of I-27 that have 700 people in them and will eventually cave to the big city life of Lubbock or Dallas or whatever it is. And so what I'm seeing is aggressive municipalities, aggressive EDCs who are pouring a lot of money in and being very opportunistic with the data centers and these new projects that I spoke about. So what I see is almost a new life being breathed into these communities. And not only do I see stability over the course of the next 10 years, I do see them growing. I do see them capitalizing on what's happening here. We're seeing appreciation in this market. I mean, just with the homes that we're building there, we're seeing it being taken up. And what we believe, and this is a lot of what our mission is in this, is that one of the last pieces is new housing. And when you put it there, people are drawn to these communities. People want to be there. You guys have probably seen that in multiple parts of the country where people are moving out to smaller areas because of the lifestyle, because of the community that exists. So Pampa specifically, outside of the 4 or 5 projects that I mentioned, that I can speak about because I've been given the permission to speak about publicly. There's 2 or 3 more that are coming down the pipeline where there's going to be more and more sustained growth over the next 10 years. So I think that the 4 to 8 year outlook on Pampa is massive growth and almost like uncomfortable growth, if I'm being honest, for a small community like that. With you're talking for the next 5 years, 2,500 to 4,000 construction jobs in a small community in rural Texas that they're going to experience. They're going to have some pain with that. But we do see long-term more growth. And again, it's you probably have seen on the news where I think I saw, I don't know if it was South Texas or if it was actually Lubbock, Texas, where there was some large infrastructure project that has been getting off the ground for the past 3 or 4 years. And whether it be the state level or mostly the city level, you're going back and forth with tax abatement and what we'll do and what we won't do. Well, where you're not seeing that is rural Texas. You're not seeing that. They're immediately inviting these large groups in because it is their pathway to growth. And so not only are these projects getting off the ground faster, they're looking into the future for the next 10 years to add on top of that.
Yeah, and I would like to note, I mean, we say small town in Texas, it's still 16, 17,000 people. It's not like we're not talking the small town in Texas that's like 1,500 people.
No.
But
Yeah, that's my bad. It's still 16,000 people, 17,000 people, and it's been, if you look at when I say stable, you look at that, it's been that way. And so even with the trends, over the course of time, people want to live in larger communities. There are a select few that have a very strong base, have stayed that way, and will continue. Now they just have a little bit of an accelerant put on them with some of these infrastructure projects.
Yep. Fantastic. All right, Andrew, is there anything you want to let our listeners know before we wrap this up here today?
Man, I don't think so. I'm just appreciative to be able to share. I'm appreciative to be able, not just for you guys and for us, but I really do believe that there's a unique moment in time we have here to where we can go and invest where things are growing more rapidly and there's a bit less competition than we see in some of the larger markets. So I'm excited for you guys and some of your clients to get to experience that.
All right. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. Andrew is the team lead for our Pampa, Texas and the surrounding area inventory there. New construction homes in the low 200,000s rented out for 2100 in about that 30-day range, like he mentioned before. Although it was quicker, we're not going to guarantee 22 days every single time.
Easy.
But that's the rent for the 30-day timeline, right? Which is what we're really aiming for, is that
That's right.
tenant placement in the first 30 days. So if you want to schedule a call, you can scan the QR code on the screen, or you can head over to premierturnkeyrei.com. That's premierturnkeyrei.com. See all of the inventory we have there. Schedule time to talk with us. And until next time, remember, you can live how you want when you invest where it's smart.